And next we will have another Professor Wang 他就是王毅伟教授，他是欧盟让莫内讲席教授，中国人民大学国际事务研究所所长。Okay, now time is yours.
Thank you. We have three Wang, three Su. There's dispute between Professor Jeffrey Saxon and my colleague Wang Wen on whether that the United Nations involve what happened in Xinjiang. I would like to remind 1955 when the president of Nankai University, Zhang Panchun, who also the vice president of the committee of the draft the Universal Declaration on Human Rights, he actually changed the first article, the original article saying that all the men and women are created in equal by dignity. And he changed all the men and the women born in equal, not just created in equal. Actually, that is very important. So he also translated the Universal Declaration on Human Rights in the World Declaration on Human Rights, 世界人权宣言. Because universalism is a more one God thinking. In China, we have different gods. It's very diverse. So in the history of China, we never happened of the religious war. So of course, there's no genocide. Only those who in the name of the God of chosen people have the genocide to other aliens. Of course, my suggestions to bridge these gaps is, of course, the United Nations can play some role. So I think the UNDP definitely can discover why China achieved 10 years ahead of time of the SDG. For those who want to know this experience, I think can discover in Xinjiang how difficulty, how meaningful of China to achieve that kind of goal, particularly under the pandemic crisis period. I also the professor, guest professor of the Xinjiang Normal University and the Talimu University. So I visited Xinjiang at least 10 times. But every time, most importantly this time, I still found a new Xinjiang because of the lifting of the poverty, achieve that kind of goal. So when Ambassador Wu Hailong mentioned about my saying, because the second time for me to visit Hetian. 5 years ago, when I visited Hetian, I dared to go outside of my hotel because people always warning it's very dangerous, particularly for your Han Chinese. Now this time there's no policeman on the street, only the policeman in charge of transportation. So I have more safety and prosperity. So my presentation is rebuild a new Xinjiang to views of the SDG perspective. 下一页. Of course, 下一页. I have two titles, you see. One is Yamane Chair Professor, another is Xi Jinping thought. I say it's a Vice President of Geology. So my academic work is want to bridge the gaps between Yamane and Xi Jinping, West and East. I think we can have some share some wisdoms like community of shared future. 下一页. I remember during the Second World War, General de Gaulle said, how can you conquer a country which has more than 256 fromage, cheese? Now I think it's the same question to China. How can you identify a genocide in Xinjiang who has more than 256 none? How to say none? So it's so many it's very diversity, not just in food, actually every culture. So I put this as a sunshine. I say your designers enjoy very much of that. Of course, this is a so-called genocide is nonsense, like the John Ross and many other guests identify. So my observation is how Xinjiang can achieve the SDG in a so difficult and complex situation. 下一页. This is a photo I took in Hetian. the old building and the new building totally changed. Only in the past 2 years. So the local people appreciate the Communist Party without the government support. Of course, no one can achieve this kind of goal. People have a new building. There's a joking. In the past, people only take the toilet on the roof of the building because after that, and they get the sunshine to kill the virus. But now they're drinking clean water, and they also have new building, and also do business. 下一页. And also very surprised this time in Hetian, it's very close to the Talimu desert. There is also people eat rice. It's like my hometown. This is needs lots of water, but now achieved. 下一页. I visit many. This time we visited many companies. One of the companies is built the chicken foods. I met one Uyghur woman who graduated from the vocational training center. She told me the very surprising story. When she first time worked in a company and got the salary of nearly 2,056 yuan, she cried. She said, "Oh, the woman can still be useful." Before that, actually, Uyghur women no work. They just asked the husband to pay for them. And secondly, she also said, "Oh, even I earn much more than my husband." So can you imagine this can happen? Actually, now the salaries is much more than because she just graduated from the vocational center. So now I think she can earn much more. 下一页. Then we visited another factory. As my colleague mentioned about the old lady factory, as a mushroom. And also my colleague mentioned about why not use this the mushroom spawner to replace of the chemical pond. We just talk. And then the officials heard from us. And then in the evening, same evening, the local party community organized a meeting to study how to practice this. So now I understand why Xinjiang and in general China can achieve SDG 10 years ahead of time. The efficiency, the Communist Party's officials. I joke to them, they are forced laborers, volunteer to work at night to study, to serve the people. And also the officials accompanying us, they also told the story. How about your family? And then they replied, actually 1 year, they never visited, only one time to their family. So this is the Communist Party's officials. That's the reason we can achieve the SDG in Xinjiang in a so difficult time. 下一页. 下一页. So the Communist Party's strong leadership and also 19 provinces, they support Xinjiang. Not just donation, but also invest, and also send the officials work in Xinjiang, and then receive the students from Xinjiang. And also my colleagues share their stories of Caoyang High School and Middle School. This is Beijing's district. 下一页. We also very astonished that even in Beijing, the students cannot enjoy some kind of good facilities and also software. This is another factory that to show that in Kashgar, in this morning we visit. 1995, they began to build the new water supply projects. Before, people only drink the same water with their horse and the sheep, very dirty, and also so many illness. Now, because I asked the question, why this is only achieved in recent years, not after the People's Republic of China was founded? And then the local officials told us, only this project is only for this country. The cost is 2 billion yuan. So it's lots of money and also high technology. Otherwise, you cannot achieve this goal. And then now people can drink the best water in China. So after the visit, we also drink the tea. I told my colleagues this tea even better than Wuyisan, because the water much better than Wuyisan, because this water is only from the snow mountain of Kunlun. So that's the story. Next, 下一页. And I understand why in Hetian, this the start capture, this is the 1950s when the Uyghur old man called Kurban met Chairman Mao, and then put it on also his colonies and to Mao, Chairman Mao. And then in the classroom, and now people respect President Xi Jinping as well as President Chairman Mao. I very impressive by this kind of photos, because the open reform actually benefit the coastal areas, the south of China much better. So the Xinjiang, those coast, this is far away from the coast, actually benefit more from the lift of the poverty, which led by President Xi. So that's the reason I think people enjoy of the SDG, and people enjoy the safety and the prosperity because of the lift the poverty campaign. 下一页. And also, even the United States criticize Xinjiang, but Xinjiang street, you can see KFC localized with Uyghur food. And this morning, we visited the naan factory. This is the new naan. This is chocolate, chocolate. It's put it with naan. So the West and the East merged in Xinjiang. So that's the Xinjiang. This is China. We are very inclusive and open our mind and to all the visitors. So that's the reason I think Chinese civilization can consistent of the more than 5,000 years, because we always are inclusive and also open, and then update to the new reality. 下一页. So this is my story. And I love this photo also very much. The same girl, I think she will be the hero of the future. So this is the hope of the Chinese football. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Wang. We are very glad to have three Professor Wangs, 王义伟、王文还有王栋啊，三位这个教授，三王联合啊，强联合给我们分享了很多真知灼见，我们也非常的高兴啊，能有三王在现场给我们分享。好的。So next we will have Gordon Dumoulin. He is the Dutch entrepreneur and also the founder of Dumico Beijing International Trading, and also the 5IZ China portal, and associate with the Transitional Foundation for Peace and Future Research. Thank you very much for joining with us.
Thank you so much. And it's already late in the evening in Beijing, same time as in Kashgar. And actually, I'm a little sad. We should be dancing now. There's no reason that we are going to talk about this, because we have seen in all the stories and in all the speeches that the evidence of a genocide is dubious. There is fabricated evidence or no evidence at all. And we are sitting here trying to change that narrative. And how did that narrative came about? And this is actually a very serious matter, because we are talking about human rights, which came into the picture, and that human rights became genocide. And as earlier mentioned, this is one of the most serious matters when we talk about human rights. Coming back to evidence, yes, I'm an associate of the Transnational Foundation for Peace and Future Research, Mr. Vesby, who has been speaking already, and one of the next speakers, Mr. Jan Oberg. We have written a report last month about the New Lines Institute report, which was mentioned earlier tonight by Mr. Turk, the former Slovenian president. And we made a critical analysis, and this analysis proved actually what especially Mr. Graham Perry also mentioned, facts, fabricating facts, and there has been a very strong motivation. This report mentioned that this is the first independent expert application of the 1948, right? 1948 Genocide Convention. But it seemed to be that this report was really a mix of special interests. And then we talk, and that makes me sad, we talk about anti-communism, we talk about Christian fundamentalism, we even talk about Muslim Brotherhood, which is appearing in this report. This report was without any criticism mentioned in mass media, immediately and massively. No critical voices, no fact-checking, and definitely no bother to make further investigations. But this has all been said. So actually, we are wasting our time here. We should be dancing all together there. I'm jealous. But it is very severe that human rights are being politicized these days. The accusation of genocide is not about the genocide. The accusation of genocide, or for example, accusations about human rights in Hong Kong, it's a politicization of other agendas. And these agendas are not about humanity. These agendas are about dominance and supremacy, and not from China. You can fill it in. So this is actually my question here. I had to keep it short. Sorry, I made a long speech. I have to cut it out, so I have to read a little. My question is why? Why is this happening? Why is this politicizing of human rights happening? I came with another, a different perspective in this respect, and I want to give because actually this question needs another forum or more forums. Why this is happening? But I just would like to leave a thought about why this politicization of human rights and accusations is happening. And I tell paper tiger. Paper tiger in modern times, actually it's a very ancient saying, but in modern times it was first used by Chairman Mao Zedong. In, let me see, in 1946, he had an interview with Anna Louise Strong, an American journalist. And he mentioned paper tiger about the atomic bomb. And what he said about the atomic bomb, of course, an atomic bomb is a weapon of mass destruction. It will scare and can kill millions of people. But in reality, it is not so powerful. Why is it not so powerful? Because he repeated the phrase paper tiger again in 1956 with the same journalist when he was talking about American imperialism. And he rephrased that paper tiger, and I quote that, in appearance, it is very powerful, but in reality, it is nothing to be afraid of. It is a paper tiger, outwardly a tiger. It is made of paper, unable to withstand the wind and the rain. He said that later on. Why he said being paper tiger is the fact that they, and then he was talking about the Western governments and leaders at that time, they were divorced from the people. So the paper tiger is the sharper the teeth, the weaker the body. So today the teeth of the tiger are very sharp. We see constant anti-China news coming in on a daily basis, or on an hourly basis, we can say. But these teeth are sharp, but it means the body is getting weaker. And this is a very interesting topic, what needs definitely more attention by all sides, by China, but definitely by the West. Western nations, Europe and America. So I just want to conclude in that, and that brings us to duties and responsibilities. First of all, it's our duty and responsibility, unfortunately today, to raise voices with different perspectives, because it's not needed. It should not be needed, but we need to do that. This is what we are doing. Secondly, it is about learning and studying about each other, about mutual understanding of each other. And most importantly, it is about our fight for collaboration. Collaboration in multilateralism, what has been said many times and many occasions already tonight, even no matter how strong the other party is to advocate separatism. It's about collaboration. Why? Because the environment, also said before, humanity, our children in Xinjiang, children here in Beijing, children all over the world deserve this from us, from our generation, that we speak up against this atrocity of propagandizing humanity. It's a huge change which we all need to get through, but it's the only way that we have to do. So we have to speak up, and we have to keep speaking up about collaboration. We have to speak up about facts which are not true or not there. We have to keep telling the truth, what we are doing tonight. And this century is not about the type of strategic competition as President Joe Biden is envisioning. No, this century is about the inclusive collaboration of mankind in diversity, in respect, and in unity, to make this century a difference for our future and our children. Thank you for listening, and I think it's a great forum.
Thank you very much, Gordon. Thank you. Well, your explanation of the paper tiger is very concise and impressive. The sharper the teeth, the weaker the body. But we're not afraid of any paper tiger. We are strong enough to tackle the problems, and we want to be collaborated together rather than be the competitor. So we are the very important person. We have the responsibilities to tell the stories of Xinjiang. Okay, next we will have another Sue. You know that we have already had Su Xiaohui, this very gorgeous lady, Miss Su, and another very beautiful lady is Su Qing. He's a very famous writer here in China. 那让我们以热烈的掌声有请我们的知名作家苏晴女士给大家发言。
非常感谢大家。其实刚才各位专家和老师都已经讲得非常精彩、非常全面了。那接下来我尽量用简短的这个语言来表达一下我这几天的感受啊。接下来我想跟大家分享一个轻松但是也不太轻松的话题，就是想跟大家聊聊新疆的女人。因为我是7年前曾经来新疆讲课，那可能我的这个学员的对象更多的是一些新疆的事业女性，包括一些女企业家呀、创业女性，包括一些在单位里的女性的管理者。其实那次课程之后，我就对新疆的女人产生了一个特别好的一个印象，因为我们新疆的女性朋友在我心目当中，一是非常漂亮，这是非常直观的啊，其次是很能干，而且最重要的是，我觉得新疆的女人特别顾家。就是我们在这个课程上，然后分享过后啊，这个跟我提问最多的一个问题，就是这些事业女性就说：“哎呀，这个苏青老师，你能跟我们讲讲，我们作为一个职业女性，怎么能够兼顾事业又兼顾家庭？怎么能把事业搞好，还能把家照顾好？”哎呦，我当时想，这个新疆的女性这么有传统的家庭观念啊，所以我身边有很多的这个小伙子都说，这个新疆的女人是非常适合当老婆的，对，就是又能干又漂亮，而且还愿意兼顾家庭。 所以这次来之前，可能刚才大家老师们都分享了这个教培中心的故事啊。其实我是在今年3月份的时候，第一次看到了这个关于教培中心的一个故事。就说一个维族的姑娘从这个教培中心出来之后，学到了这个职业技能，然后当时她说她已经能够挣到1个月4000块的月薪了。我当时看到了这个姑娘的故事之后，我说啊，原来现在新疆是这个样子的。所以今天真的是非常有机会啊，在7年之后，我重新又来到了新疆，又看到了今日的新疆女性的这个精神面貌。我觉得比7年之前我来的时候精神面貌要更上了一个大的一个台阶儿。然后我们这一路走下来5天的时间，然后看到了新疆形形色色的这个职业女性，然后他们其中刚才有司马南老师非常欣赏的李奶奶，70岁还在创业。那今天我们所在的这个鼓励之家呢，我们鼓励其实也是一位非常优秀的创业女性，又漂亮又能干。然后包括我们这一路走下来，我们见到了很多的这个女讲解员、女技术员工，包括女司机等等女性的职业。那我为什么要说这些呢？其实现在有很多不太了解新疆的朋友，经常在互联网上有一种论调叫说这个新疆男人大男子主义，新疆女人没有家庭地位。但是我们这一路聊下来，我跟这个新疆本地的小伙子聊，我说你们在家里是不是大男子主义？他说我们哪敢呀，是吧？我们现在我们的这个新疆的姑娘们在外面有收入，而且收入不比我们低。新疆的姑娘长得又好看，而且就是在这样的一种环境下，女人经济独立，并且她有自身的这种外貌的优势。如果我们说她没有家庭地位的话，我觉得是不太可能，甚至这个假设根本就是不成立的。而且我们这个一路走下来，我觉得其实给我特别深的一个感受。刚才大家都提到了这个新疆每年有一次针对每个人的免费的体检，我还了解到可能针对女性朋友还有这个关于妇科方面的这个体检，就是保障他们的这个身体的健康，排除一些健康的隐患。然后包括我的很多的同行的老师都来新疆教过课，就是帮助当地的这个女性朋友提升自己的情感力，然后帮助他们怎么好好经营好自己的家庭，提升情感关系的这方面的能力。所以其实我们经常大家都在讲说这个一个女人也好，一个人也好，每一个人都是这样。幸福的标准一定是有3大保障的。第一大保障就是有工作、有收入、能挣钱。第2大保障是有一个健康的身体。那第3大保障呢，是我们有一个稳定的、和谐的、幸福的家庭。这其实是每一个人幸福、通往幸福的一个3大保障。其实我们一路走下来，能够发现，其实我们的政府对于女性在这3方面都给了很大的支持和很大的一个引导。所以我觉得7年以后再次来到新疆，我看到了现在的新疆，让我感受很深。我觉得我这次5天之后，已经把我7年前那个印象当中的新疆，已经开始有点彻底一点一点的推翻了。我觉得这一路走下来，每一站都让我有惊喜。所以我觉得其实今日的新疆的女性的地位在越来越高。甚至我们现在很多的小伙子都说，现在新疆女性的地位有碾压男人的趋势。他说我们新疆男人在家里都得做饭，都得洗衣服，都得干家务，这个是现在的一个新疆的青年家庭的一个家务的一个构成。所以我觉得新疆的生活好不好，新疆女人过得好不好，最关键的是要来到这儿好好的看一看，了解一下。那今天我不多说了，我觉得我还需要更多的时间去慢慢了解新疆，慢慢了解新疆的女性。那我争取在最短的时间里，再带着我的家人，带着父母再来一次，再好好的了解一下新疆的文化风情和新疆的女人。那就先这样，谢谢大家。
好的，非常感谢苏晴啊，从一个非常这个独特的角度，女性的角度来看我们新疆的女人，可以发现新疆的女人不仅外表非常美，而且都是高颜值、高内涵的。那么新疆的女人和新疆的男人一起携手并肩，肯定可以创造更加美好的新疆的未来。好的，非常感谢您。那么接下来呢，我们呢还有一位重量级的嘉宾，他就是阿里莫夫先生。阿里莫夫先生呢是上海合作组织的前秘书长，那么他专门呢也录制了一段视频带给大家，让我们一起来看。
Dear Ambassador Wu Hailong, dear colleagues, friends, ladies and gentlemen, first of all, let me express my gratitude to the organizers of the forum for the invitation to share our impressions of Xinjiang. During my life and work in China from 2005 to 2018, I have visited this wonderful land of many occasions. I was always amazed by its scale, hospitable people, and rich history, which is connected with Central Asia through the Great Silk Road. I had the opportunity to witness the challenges facing the region, its resilience and development. I met with Tajiks living in Tashkurgan, with archaeologists in Turfan, with builders in the Taklamakan Desert, with workers and engineers of the West-East gas pipeline of China. Several times I participated at Friday prayers at the Itkah Mosque in Kashgar. Many times visited the Grand Bazaar in Urumqi, lectured in Xinjiang University, where I am an honorary professor. I have many friends in Xinjiang with whom I continue to maintain close ties. Together with them, I deeply experienced the tragic events of July 5th, 2009. Many Western media wrote at the time that after these events, the Chinese government would take harsh measures, yet the contrary happened. In 2010, a program for an accelerated leap forward of socio-economic development of the region was developed and implemented. The result is impressive. In 10 years, the gross regional product of Xinjiang has grown tenfold and in 2020 amounted to about 213 billion. In one decade, the region has become the largest exporter of electricity. Over the past 10 years, there have been fundamental changes in the appearances of cities and towns in the Xinjiang region. They have become modern, comfortable, while retaining their local flavor. In addition, thanks to the powerful development in infrastructure, civil aviation, the construction of new airports, roads, and railways, Xinjiang has become one of the most visited tourist regions in China. In 2020 alone, 158 million tourists arrived in the region. It is important to note that no terrorist attacks have been reported in Xinjiang over the past 5 years. This testifies to the effectiveness of an integrated approach to combating terrorism and extremism. The spearhead of the measures being taken is not directed against ethnic groups or against believers. respect for freedom of religion and traditions of ethnic groups is strictly observed here. The most recent example is the holiday of Uraza Bayram, which was widely celebrated by Muslims in Xinjiang. In addition, over 10 years in the region, especially in its remote areas, huge number of social facilities, primarily hospitals and schools, have been built. Moreover, school children, along with Chinese, study the traditional language and writing. Xinjiang is home to nearly 50 nationalities. Special attention is paid here to the development of languages and cultures of national minorities. Culture and linguistic diversity is Xinjiang trademark. For example, it was always pleasant for me to communicate with Tajiks of Xinjiang, of whom there are about 80,000 people. Tajik President Emomali Rahmon met with them in 2010 during his visit to Xinjiang and in particular to Kashgar. Since then, Tajikistan and Xinjiang have been successfully developing trade, economic, scientific and public relations. By the way, this is typical for Kazakhstan and Kyrgyzstan, other Central Asia states. We see a great future in strengthening their relationships with are filled with new content thanks to the Belt and Road Initiative. They're mutually beneficial. Today, Xinjiang is a region of advanced development where representatives of different ethnic groups or confessions live and work peacefully. They live according to the laws of the country, China, and look confidently to the future. Let me wish the great Chinese people happiness and prosperity. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, Rashid Alimov, the former SCO, Secretary General, yes, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization Secretary General, just to give us a very good wish Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region to be prosperous in the future. Okay, and next we will have Mother Wang. 我们发现啊，中国公共外交协会啊非常会选人呢。我们发现我们这儿有4大天王，都是行走我们的这个天山昆仑山脉的王。好了，那我们这个王辉耀先生啊，非常的想来新疆，但是因为这一次的工作原因呢，很繁忙，所以留在了北京。那么我相信呢，你听了我们这其他3位天王的这个分享之后，您肯定有更多的这个真知灼见，想跟大家一起来分享吧，是不是？好，那我们有请我们的王辉耀先生。王辉耀先生呢是全球化智库 CCG 的创始人兼理事长，也是西南财经大学发展研究院的院长。有请王院长。
好的，谢谢啊，谢谢舒玉婷，还有各位嘉宾哈。So because this is an English international conference, I do it in English. So I think this is actually very fascinating when I hear through the whole the witness account, actually all the vivid demonstration and pictures and the videos and also a variety of sharing of all the people that we have today. I'm very much impressed, and I want to congratulate China, the Public Diplomacy Association for organizing this, and also Ambassador Wu for championing this. This is really a great event. I think it's also very unique because it's combined witness account, the 5 days tour, but also international experts participation from around the world. So this is really impressive, and also it's a 3-hour long and 5 days trip, recovery and summary of that. What I was thinking is that I've been to Xinjiang a few times, of course, and unfortunately I couldn't join this time, but I was there just 2 years ago, and I was there 5 years ago. When I see the differences, I can see that Xinjiang is really getting much better now, and progressing very much. I was quite struck by the sharing of the lively situation in Xinjiang. I can see how peacefully people are living and working there, and also I was trying to understand what is really behind this. But I can see that because Xinjiang get so much attention and support from around the country, from all the other provinces, from the central government, it's actually been lifting its economic progress, and it's kept high GDP, high population growth. I'm very much impressed by the international speakers as well. I mean, domestic speaker and international speaker both are very well. One particularly I would like to mention is Graham Perry. He mentioned a lot of things that I felt very interesting. For example, he mentioned about this Andrew Zins, who fabricate this number of 1 million, 2 million, 3 million Uyghurs that locked in the concentration camp and things like that. That is really a sure a lie of that. I want to see, I mean, there is no serious academic research on this. So I hope that international, the journalism and also international reporters can really notice that we really need a very good fact-based study, not speculations, not just a few count that is dissident or not happy with what's going on. So we really need a fact. And if there's no genocide, if we give such a big name of genocide, that is really unthinkable. So I really congratulate of this trip that it's really brought the international and domestic expert together to examine what's the truth, seek the truth from the fact, and tell the story from the real situation. The other thing I would like to emphasize is that share as well is that I find that tourism is really booming, like the previous Secretary General of Shanghai Corporation just mentioned. 150 million people visited Xinjiang 2020, and I was just noticed a number again. 2 days ago is a China Tourism Day, and China Tourism Day, and then they set up a Xinjiang also sub conference site as well, and then in Arkasu, basically in that area, they had just in that region alone, they had 50 million people visited last year, and that generated about 800 million yen in the revenue. So it's incredible. So I think this is probably the right path that Xinjiang is taking. So we can welcome more tourism from China, but also welcome the foreigners in China who wants to live. And I know that there's no restriction, there's no limits. They are free to visit. So why not come and visit and then really share their story and give the seeing is believing. I think that is really important. So that's really a significant number that we have to bear in mind. I think with this pandemic situation under control, Xinjiang will welcome more both domestic and international tourists, and then that really, when more people come, when more journalists come, more visitors come, more foreigners come, that will be really. I mean, this lie will disappear. I can see that will happen as well. Finally, I would like to say, given the time is really limited, I would say that I think this is really a great achievement that we are combining international visitors and domestic visitors with the credibility. We probably, I think, the Ambassador Wu could organize more trips like that, and probably the people's diplomatic public diplomacy association should do more because this is really meaningful and useful. And I found that is really stimulating, and also when we actually discussing this, the truth become more and more clear, the fact become more and more clear, and the myths will really be disappear. So I really congratulate on this event. I really want to join you for the practical site visit. and I really look forward for the next trip. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Wang Huiyao. Thank you. We just give you also a big round of applause, and we also want to express gratitude to China Public Diplomacy Association for arranging such kind of very interesting and exciting tour. And next time, we wish you and many more other people from across the world to join with us. Okay, and we will have the final distinguished panelist. He is Jean Aubec, the Danish and Swedish peace and future researcher and art photographer, and also the co-founder and director at the Transitional Foundation for Peace and Future Research. Thank you very much. You are the very important person. Yes, the last but not least, a very significant one.
My importance consists in being the last. Thank you so much for arranging this seminar and for making it technically possible so elegantly and well functioning. And thank you very much to everybody who's participated. It's been a great joy for me. I should say that I am not an expert on China. I am a sociologist and a peace researcher who knows something about conflict resolution and peacemaking. But I've only been to China and traveled around to China for a couple of times in 1983 and in 2018, but that will be more in the future. Now, when I've listened to the discussion today or tonight, I have been thinking of George Bernard Shaw, the Irish author, who says something like, most people look at the world as it is and ask why. But what we should do much more is to look at the world as it could be and ask why not. And it is this future perspective that I would like to look a little bit into in the next few minutes that I have, and I shall not keep you long because we're already exceeded the time. First of all, it is the foundation of which I am the director who has produced this report, which debunks the New Lines report, which allegedly is the most authoritative report on the so-called genocide in Xinjiang. And I'm very happy that some of you have referred to it. It has also gone viral in Chinese and other media and not had one mention in the Western press, all of whom have received it. Of any importance, and those who've been writing about reports about Xinjiang. So that type of report is not useful. That type of falsifications, bad scholarship, and selective sources which cannot be verified is not what we need now. And I'd like to second and applaud what Jeffrey Sachs said. We do not need this waste of time, energy, money, and people's creativity in a situation in which humankind so desperately needs to come together, work together, dialogue, and solve the problems that are much more important and stand in front of humanity, be it militarism, be it the ecology, environment, being it poverty alleviation, more equal society, sustainable development, and all these things. And I did deliberately mention militarism because we cannot survive if we continue wasting tremendous sums of money on military expenditures, east, west, north, and south. And also nuclear weapons is something that must go. By the way, they are now illegal by January this year. So the reason we have produced this is that we work for peace. And these things must not stand in the way for peace. My second point is, there is a conflict of some kind, or perhaps more appropriate to say, there's contradictions, a series of contradictions between the Occident and the Orient. By the way, perhaps the Occident is a kind of accident at the moment. And we are waiting for the fact that this empire will be the last, the US empire will be the last, and it will go down like all other empires have in human history. And it is this down, this decline, this fall that is coming, which makes the Americans, the American administration so desperate, but that does not mean we cannot work with the American people and also that Europe cannot help the United States to behave more sensibly. But I think it's important to discuss what is behind this conflict between East and West, these contradictions. And I sense a tendency where we talk too much about economy and technology and growth and these kinds of things. There is a non-material dimension, which is the ways we think about ourselves and the ways we think about the other. And those are things which are less, easy to grasp, but I think they stand in the way at the moment for rapprochement and more cooperation. There are some absolutely wrong images in the West about China, as far as I can understand, whereas China has the advantage and have been much more curious about the West and also learned English. I'm sorry, I don't speak Chinese, I ought to. But this is something we should look into and certainly not talk about competition as the Biden administration now does. Point 3. It is obvious that governments have a responsibility to move the world ahead in the right direction, solving problems, but let's not forget that the real decision makers are the people. No matter what system you take, there is no governments if there are no people who allow governments to function. So I don't have, speaking to a series of Chinese people, to discuss why people, citizens are important. And my suggestion would be, let governments do all they can to create reconciliation and conflict resolution, but let the people lead that path, in the sense that we need much more citizens diplomacy, visits, scientific tourism, if you will. We need much more citizens reporting and media work. We need much more research cooperation. We need much more professional organizations coming together, whether engineers or priests or school teachers or whatever, between our different cultures and civilizations, and talk with each other. You may say it's banal, but it's always forgotten in the discussion because we tend to focus on what governments do. And I think it's very important to see, what can people do? What can we ourselves do, such as travel, such as such a wonderful seminar as this one? What can we do that perhaps it'll take longer time for governments to get around to do? In the West, we know the governments don't anyhow do what the people have expected them to do. So we could just as well do it ourselves. I call that direct democracy, and that would be a way to democratize democracy. Point 4, I think what we need to learn from perhaps is, what did we do last time we had something that looked like a Cold War, namely in Europe? We did a series of things. We took contacts. We discussed military issues. We had hotlines. We had common security thinking. We had confidence building measures, and we had arms control and disarmament negotiations. I would find it wonderful if the West and China could discuss these things in some new structures or something more, systematized, but to secure that we're never ending down at the end of the Cold War, which I think the West is planning now. We're not ending the Cold War in a warm war. That must not happen. And there we all have a responsibility. So I'm not going to make this longer. As I said, there are lots of points, there are elements to be discussed, there are good books and analysis and histories about it. And I think I would like to end by saying, I hope that seminars like this one will not be a one-timer and we then rush to the next seminar, but that we will really try to keep in touch with each other. I would like the email addresses or whatever to be circulated, so that we can exchange these things after this wonderful seminar here. And also that I can tell you my next trip to China will definitely include Xinjiang, and I hope to see many of the wonderful people who've been speaking here today. So thank you very much, and also for inviting me and for letting me share those hopefully constructive, future-oriented elements of some thinking. We have to think like a doctor, not only in terms of diagnosis and prognosis and bad futures for the world. We have to think about treatment, about therapy, about coming together and healing this global community before it's too late. Thank you so much.
Appreciate your time and efforts and also your insights. Thank you very much, Jane Obek. You are a very good art photographer. We know that. So when you mentioned about exchange emails and connections with each other, I noticed that President Wu Hailong is nodding his head all the time. So that means that we will have lots of opportunities in the future, and you can come to Xinjiang to take lots of photos by yourself and share it with the friends from across the globe. Thank you very much. 好的，那我们接下来呢，有一个非常重要的环节啊，虽然我们的时间已经非常的紧了，大家呢还是这个非常的这个投入到我们的这次国际研讨会中来，所以我们还是要把这个 Q&A session 留给大家。Okay, so next we will have the Q&A session, and please raise your question. Do not forget to mention your name and which news agency you are working for. Now, please raise your hands and click the button on the Zoom. Don't hesitate to raise your hands. 好的，那让我们的技术人员来看一下啊，在我们的 Zoom 这个上面呢，有一个小小的举手的按键，大家可以，好，让我们的技术人员来挑选一下由谁来提问。OK， 把他的这个大屏放出来吧。好的 ，Wow, you are the lucky one. You're the first one. OK, now please.
Yes, I'm just responding to a couple of chat queries I had following my presentation. This figure of 1 million, where did it come from? And the research that I did, I'm indebted to Max Blumenthal of a news agency called Grey Zone. Some of you may be familiar with it. He had an interview with a man called Kanat, K-A-N-A-T, who was the president of the World Uyghur Congress. And there's film of this interview, and Blumenthal asks Kanat, where does the figure of 1 million come from? And Kanat says, it's not our figure, it comes from America. That was about as far as it went. Kanat, the head of the World Uyghur Congress, clearly had no idea about the origin, the veracity, or the reliability of the figure of 1 million. Just taking it a stage further, the figure seems to have come from a woman called McDougall, who is a researcher in America. She may be associated with one of the right-wing organizations which are behind most of this anti-China material about the Uyghurs. It either comes from the New Endowment Democracy, NED, or it comes from Australia, the Australian Strategic Policy Institute. Both of these organizations have been relied upon heavily by Adrian Zenz, but both of them have suspect origins. Now, I'm not saying that because they have suspect origins, they're therefore necessarily untrue. I believe they are untrue because when you look at it in some detail, the evidence doesn't stand up to examination. That's what I wanted to say.
Okay, thank you. We will leave the very professional question to the professional officials and experts from the Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region. Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Perry. We will introduce you Xu Guixiang. He is the spokesperson with the government of the Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region, and we will let Mr. Xi to pick up who will answer your question. 好的，徐贵相是我们的新疆维吾尔自治区的新闻发言人，所以他是非常有经验的。让我们的徐贵相一起来介绍我们的嘉宾，然后来回答你的问题。
好，我记得我第一次接待这个外媒的时候，第一个问题就是问，说联合国有关方面提出你们关押了100万维吾尔族群众。那么当时我们也感到非常吃惊，我首先就问他，也是问这个问题，这个100万是从哪儿来的？他说他也是看到有关的材料或者是研究报告得来的。我说这个感到很奇怪，我说我们都从来没有做过统计，在当事人的情况下， 那你们是从哪儿统计来的？联合国的官员也从来没有到新疆那个时候来过啊，做过统计啊。那么这个是什么意思呢？那么这个100万完全就是虚构出来的啊，应该说它本身就不是一个问题，而是西方的一些反华的政客也好，智库的所谓的智库专家也好啊，他为了造谣啊，生生的杜撰出来的这么一个所谓的100万的数据，所以我认为这个是一个伪命题啊。那么在这个问题上呢，应该说直到现在为止啊，这个很多人还在这个纠结啊，那我认为呢，就是说没必要啊，在这么一个个别人啊虚构出来、杜撰出来的这样一个问题上啊再去纠结啊。问题的实质啊是过去很多群众受极端思想的感染啊，被裹挟啊，或者说这个参与到暴恐活动当中去，成为他们的牺牲品。问题的关键啊是让这些群众去除掉极端化思想的感染，铲除暴恐活动产生的社会根源。我认为啊，这个才是最有意义的啊。所以我想呢，就是大家今天晚上，很多嘉宾呢也探讨了关于反恐啊、去极端化这些问题啊。我感觉呢，与其纠结在一些西方一些人造谣的这些问题上，不如静下来认真思考一下啊，新疆如何从过去暴恐活动多发频发那样一种状况下、严峻的局面下，怎么实现了今天这样一个安定祥和的局面实现了连续4年零5个月没有发生暴恐案事件。我认为呢，这个是非常值得研究的，因为我们今天是国际研讨会，我想在座的包括我们今天连线的很多有识之士应该共同去探讨这样一个问题。我感觉这样呢是对世界上许多国家和地区面临的这种反恐去极端化这种斗争都是非常有意义的所以我希望在这方面看到更多的研究的成果谢谢我就说这么多。
Thank you, Mr. Xi. And next question, please. Raise your hands. Okay, please. It's your turn. Can you hear me?
Thank you.
Yes.
I have a question to whoever wants to answer it. In the recent days, the Congress in USA has approved 2 acts: Strategic Competition Act and Endless Front Act, and they are now printing trillions of dollars to start a campaign to contain the BRI and to compete with China. So what would a reasonable reaction to this be from China or the rest of the world?
Okay, please, Wang Dong.
Thank you very much for this very important question. I think many of my colleagues and myself, we have been actually following this new development. Personally, I think this is a quite worrisome trend, which is that I think the hardline forces, the anti-China forces, they're still gathering. Some people in the States, they're joking that now the only thing consensus Democrats and Republicans have are anti-China. So I think this is the 2 acts you just mentioned, that potentially it might create a sort of legally binding environment for the Biden administration and any following administrations in the United States to take a much harsher anti-China position. So which means that the probability that the whole world will be engulfed by a new Cold War will greatly increase rather than decrease. This is, I think, is highly dangerous move on the US side, and it is extremely irresponsible in my view. And what to do about it? I think number one, I think as we Chinese, we always say we get our own sort of business done. We continue grow our economy and improve people's livelihood, and also try to contribute to global governance to the extent we can, and fight against all the global challenges. And secondly, I think also it's very important for the international community, for all the learn, all the people who really concerned about the future trajectory of US-China relations going forward, and also the future of global order, to really come together and work together to say to the hawks, super hawks in the United States and elsewhere, a new Cold War is something we are going to reject. I think unless we do that, I think the probability that the hawkish forces in the United States and elsewhere in the West are dragging our whole world into a new Cold War, I think cannot be ruled out. And indeed, I think it is on the rise. That's why I think we have to be quite alert by this new development.
Okay, Mr. Wang, another one, Wang Yiwei, want to add some points.
Thank you. Actually, today I published an article in the Global Times to answer this question because it's a Friday now. The 2 points. Firstly, we welcome the US invest more on the real economy, infrastructure building, and the BRI is inclusive. The world needs more invest to build the infrastructure. For instance, today, still nearly half of the world people cannot access to the internet. We can enjoy that conversation, but can you imagine so many people still cannot access the internet? Definitely need more investment. And secondly, we particularly welcome the US focus more on the real economy, not to print US dollars to create more hot money. But the problem is where the US promise can sustainable and then can to force, because the US still need the infrastructure building investment. How can US invest to other countries? Many other countries question about that. And also the many other BRI countries worry about the US intention is not really to invest in infrastructure. They want to enforce the BRI countries to take side, not use Chinese money, but they just to produce the lip service of make another bubble. That's really a concern. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. So as the time is so limited, we will have only one question. Okay, so we have a journalist there from Pakistan, right?
Yes.
Wow, that's great. You know that President Wu Hailong just mentioned that he wished a journalist to show up on the screen. So that is you. You are the very lucky one. Mr. Wu,
thank you very much.
President Wu pick you up.
Thank you very much. Mr. Wu is also our president, as I have spent a very good time and met twice with Mr. President in Beijing. As you know that I have worked in Beijing, I enjoyed a fellowship as a correspondent, and I have visited China more than around 8 to 10 times. And I have visited Xinjiang one time, got the opportunity to visit in 2016. And being a journalist, I would like to share some of my opinion, and then I would like to ask a question. First of all, I would like to say that being a journalist, I have witnessed the development there in the Xinjiang. and the people in Pakistan, we have tried our best to project the development of the Xinjiang whenever we see something new happening in Xinjiang. And I would like to ask a question that the campaign which was launched by the President Trump aggressively against Xinjiang, especially by the Mike Pompeo, it was being expected that the new US administration will tone down the campaign. But unluckily, we see that the new administration is also putting forward the same campaign against Xinjiang. And now this is being, turning towards the economic side, more to the economic side. From genocide, the so-called genocide, which they were claiming, now it is turning towards the cotton industry and the other industries. I just would like to ask that, how do you see that the truth about the Xinjiang development may be communicated more effectively to the people who are waiting and who are loving to know the prosperous face of Xinjiang? How the China is, adopting the new communication strategies to project the real face of the Xinjiang, the prosperous face of the Xinjiang around the globe. Like we in Pakistan, the people here on daily basis, we see some news stories from the Western media, which are being translated into the local media for the local people, because in the local languages, the local media is very, widely read by the local people. But we do not see much, the stories from Chinese media, which are being translated into the local media. How this gap will be maintained to project the truth about Xinjiang? We believe, I believe, as I have visited Xinjiang, that the economy of the Xinjiang, the GDP of the Xinjiang, the per capita income of the Xinjiang, the social side, the social sector of the Xinjiang is, moving ahead at a very rapid scale and developing. But the people, the local people in different, especially in the Muslim countries, they want to know that what is the real efforts of the Chinese government going on for the betterment of the local people there in the Xinjiang. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Zamir. I think you're a very familiar face to me because you have.
We have met many times.
Thank you very much for your question. Okay, so we will leave this question to Mr. Xi as well.
我还是非常珍惜这个机会，愿意跟这位记者朋友在进行交流。首先您讲到这个问题呢，应该是如果说过去几年前是这种情况的话，有可能是，但现在呢，客观上讲已经有了很大的变化。那么这个呢，就是一方面得益于我们在努力的做工作，另外也得益于包括记者朋友世界上许多国家有识之士共同的努力啊。那么从我们新疆自治区这个工作角度来讲呢，还是采取了很多的措施啊，也是想把真实的新疆介绍给全世界啊。你比如说我们通过举办涉疆问题新闻发布会，那么这个呢是从就去年的1月3号开始，现在呢已经举办了30多场啊。这个包括呢到中国外交部到北京已经举办了9场涉疆问题新闻发布会。那么每一场，尤其是在北京，都是20多家媒体参加，包括美联社、CNN 这个彭博社基本上是每场都到啊。那么他们呢也对有关的内容做了充分的这个报道啊。这是一个努力啊，应该说现在很多声音已经传到了全世界啊，因为我认为呢这种状况发生很大改变。第二呢，就是通过这个请进来的这种方式啊，因为正像大家都讲到的，经常讲的百闻不如一见啊。那么通过媒体报道也好，通过我们各种努力去介绍也好啊，终归代替不了你自己到这儿来看一看得出自己的感受。那么从2018年底以来已经邀请了应该说90多批团组，1500多人到新疆来实地参访。 那么这些团组里头，包括联合国反恐委员会的前副秘书长沃伦科夫，包括阿蒙驻华使节，包括这个联合国日内瓦总部驻华这个有关国家的这个使节代表，也包括上合组织前一段时间刚来，还包括伊斯兰合作组织等等就来了很多这方面的这个人士到新疆来看。那么大家到新疆看了以后就了解了新疆的真实的情况很多朋友到这儿说一下飞机一到乌鲁木齐就知道美国人说的都是谎话那么通过大家实地参访呢，也通过他们各种途径把真实的新疆也传递给了全世界那么这些呢都是非常真实的非常这个就像今天在座的各位朋友给你们介绍的都是他们的亲身的感受，也反映了新疆的真实的情况。另外呢，还通过媒体的方式包括电视片呀，这个特别是我们也通过官方的权威的方式包括我们中华人民共和国国务院新闻办公室发布的一系列的白皮书都是以各种语言这个进行传播，包括我们这个制作了一系列电视专题片通过我们 CGTN 等频道也都传向了全世界。说至于您现在这种感受，说为什么感到还是听不到或者听的比较少这方面现象呢？我认为呢，这个首先可能我们在这方面还继续加强工作的力度另外呢，也不得不承认美西方的反华势力他要围堵、孤立封锁中国，他也会采取很多措施来这个围追堵截一些正义之声那么第三点呢，也希望包括您在内的咱们记者朋友这个世界各国有识之士更多去关注特别是已经传到境外的一些声音通过你们记者朋友你们的这个优势你们的频道版面进一步的去放大这些声音，让世界上这个所有方面都了解真实的新疆，不再为美西方反华势力捏造的炮制的这些谣言所蒙蔽谢谢你我就说这么多。
好的，谢谢，非常谢谢这个徐贵相是我们这个新疆维吾尔自治区的人民政府的新闻发言人，非常的有经验。我们可以看到无论是在何时何地，只要是跟新疆相关的重要的大事，那么徐贵相先生就会第一时间来发声，和媒体进行交流。好的，那我们呢非常高兴这次我们有一个非常热烈而又深入的讨论。虽然我们原计划时间呢是11点半可以看到大家还是兴高采烈的。北京时间已经接近了凌晨1点09了，现在那所以我们大家真的是为新疆的事业可以说是这个通宵达旦的在这儿大家一块儿来工作非常的好。那么我们接下来呢，让我们以热烈的掌声有请我们的吴海龙先生、吴海龙会长，中国公共外交协会的吴海龙会长来给我们做总结致辞。Thank you very much, President Wu.
Thank you very much. Since time is flying, now it's a midnight time, and the dialogue has lasted for, I think, more than 4 hours, far beyond our schedule. I just want to use this opportunity to thank our distinguished past for your active participation and valuable contribution. And of course, our association will play a leading role to promote people-to-people exchange and mutual understanding between China and other countries, as well as the issue of Xinjiang. Just as our Pakistani friend said, let us work together collectively to tell the truth of the story of Xinjiang. Let the people of the world to more understand about Xinjiang. I'm fully believing that the future of Xinjiang will be brighter. Although people said that lying repeated thousands of times will become truth. No, not at all. The lying will be a lying. The truth will always be a truth. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Appreciate your time and efforts, President Wu Hailong. 那我们可以感受到吴海龙先生对我们这个新疆涉疆问题这个事业的解决，已经是做出了非常重大的努力和贡献，包括我们中国公共外交协会的各位成员也是在其中做出了非常努力的贡献。那么接下来呢，我们这个国际会议、国际研讨会呢就要接近尾声了。我可以看到大家还是虽然非常的辛苦，这一行5天去了乌鲁木齐，去了和田，然后又来到喀什，但是我们还是收获满满，因为我们把自己的见解和所见所闻分享给了大家。那么我想这次虽然我们的时间非常短暂，但是我们的研讨会的这个内容非常的热烈。那么我们大家呢都是有一种这个功成不必在我的使命，以及功成必定有我的决心，一起来为我们的新疆未来的繁荣的事业做出自己的一份力。那么我相信呢，在场的线上的各位嘉宾，来自国外的这些友人，你们呢也一定会听到我们新疆更好更美的声音能够发出来，包括我们的一些国际的这些记者朋友们，也希望能够通过你们的纸和笔，还有你们的这个脚力、脑力，一起来到新疆走走看看，认识更加美丽、更加真实的新疆，也把我们的新疆故事传播到世界各地。好的，非常感谢在场的各位、线上的各位嘉宾，感谢你们的参与，也感谢我们在座的各位专家学者、网络大 V， 以及我们新疆自治区的各位领导，非常感谢，还有我们在座的媒体朋友们，包括古力还有你的爷爷，大家呢一起在我们这个喀什古老的城市，能够给大家带来这么一个美好的夜晚，也是终身难忘的一次美好回忆。希望我们等到疫情结束的时候，可以再次在新疆喀什团聚。无论是在喀什、在乌鲁木齐，还是在新疆更美的地方，欢迎大家来北疆和南疆一起走走看看，那将会是另外一场非常非常高兴和 happy 的一个 big gathering。好的，非常感谢各位，那我们祝各位晚安、午安、早安，24小时不间断的发出我们的新疆美好的声音，以及我们的热情的交流和交往。希望在未来能够再次看到你们，我们的舞会上给你们招手啦。我们在座的各位也对你们表示衷心的感谢，希望大家能够再次相会。Bye.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Warmly welcome all of you come to Xinjiang.
Welcome you all. Enjoy. Have a good day. Bye.